Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where Dr. Disha Spath will be your companion on this exciting financial adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms.
At Reza and Sharif CPAs, they provide more than just tax returns and financial statements. They deliver strategic financial solutions tailored to your needs. Whether you're a business owner, physician, or investor, Reza and Sharif CPAs can help you navigate complex tax laws, maximize savings, and build long-term wealth. With expert tax planning, accounting, and advisory services, Reza and Sharif CPAs ensure your finances work for you, not the other way around. Take control of your financial future today. Visit rezasharif.com. That's REZASHARIF.com to see how they can help you. Hey guys, welcome back to Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician. I'm your host, Dr. Disha Spath, and today we're going to jump back into our conversation with Gelerie and Erik Stenbakken. They have been telling us about their incredible journey in real estate, and they told us about how they were saving up to build their dream home, but then decided that actually they already had what they needed, and they wanted to put the money they saved to work. And that's how they got started into real estate investing. From there, they went on to purchase some long-term properties and then changed over to short-term rentals. And now they are telling us about their short-term rental journey and how they've been able to scale their systems to accommodate running a short-term rental business. So let's get back into it. Now that you have a bunch of rentals, do you have relationships with certain companies where they know what you want and they'll just go ahead and put it in if you give them a call?
Yeah, pretty
Close
much.
to that, yeah.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, and that's the thing, whatever area you are, you find the people, the vendors that you want to work with. And since we have 4 properties in the Smoky Mountains right now, we do have a furniture store that we call up. In fact, I called them up today. We had someone said they broke a bed. And so we are going to have to replace the sideboards on that bed. And so we're going to be turning that into our damage protection insurance. And they're going to be sending, and they actually have that bed in stock because they have so much inventory. And so I'll just be able to replace it probably next week in between guests coming. So.
How did you find the vendors to clean the house and to maintain the house, since this is not an area where you're usually based and it's kind of far away from your house? Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, when our very first property that we bought there, it's a 6-bedroom property. We basically we joked that we traded houses for a hotel, but we took 3 properties, long-term properties here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we 1031'd into that one property there. And basically, we figured out that our revenue there would be more than the revenue we were getting from those 3 houses. And at the time, we had someone else handle the bookings. It's a national company. It's called Evolve, and actually they charge 10%. And at the time, I felt like they did a good job, and so they already had people kind of in place for the cleaners. But then, as you go into a market, you start finding your own vendors, and then you just keep. I don't know, just you keep working with them until something goes wrong, and then you find somebody else.
Right. This is why it's important to. Well, there's a lot of homework to do when you go, especially into the short-term rental market. Long-term rentals are a little bit less demanding systems-wise, and there's somebody there for virtually everything. If you need a hot water heater, there's somebody there who does a hot water heater. The difference is if you have a guest staying in a property as a vacation rental and your hot water heater goes out, you've got a different situation. Yeah, you may have to rehouse the people. You're looking at refunds. If you've got a long-term place and it's 4 or 5 days, you may have to make some accommodations for your renters and so on. But it's a different animal. If you've got a problem in a vacation rental, you've got to get it fixed right away.
Yeah, it's all about your hospitality. And I think also one way we found our vendors, there are Facebook groups in popular markets. You can go to a Facebook group of owners and you can say, hey, what's your recommendation? And there are some people that are going to say, these are great. avoid these people. And so that was very helpful too. And also your real estate agent. When you have a real estate agent who knows the market, who is an STR specialist, they know people and they will say, I know a guy. And that's been very helpful also.
Where you had just built this 6-bedroom short-term rental property, tell us a little bit more about the process of getting this place going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, getting a place going, there's quite a checklist. we have one that we just work through. Literally, I keep it in Evernote, and there's just maybe 100 things to go through. We've got the security cameras up. We've got to get the internet installed. We've got to get the water changed into our name. We've got to have the electric connected. We've got to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all the things
that comes with buying a house and outfitting it.
Right. And people will say, well, this seems awfully scary and it seems intimidating. But the good news is anytime there's a problem, and if it's a consistent enough problem, there is someone out there who makes a living solving that problem, right? And your only problem really is just finding that person. If you have a problem with a tree, guess what? There's somebody out there who cuts down trees. If you've got a problem with septic, there's somebody out there who their job is to work on septic systems. So it isn't like you have to know how to do everything. You just have to find the people who do and do a little bit of homework to find out that you get a good vendor, because like anything else, there are good folks and there are not so good folks. But really, that's the trick, is just finding those people. And to your other question, how's it working? It's working well. We have a modest portfolio of rental properties everywhere from Maui to Colorado to Tennessee. And the combined cash flow of those properties is more than her clinical income at this point.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, my clinical income is not the same as if you Googled or searched an anesthesiologist's income in Colorado. That is not my income because I no longer work, full time. I'm not a partner. I work part-time, probably about 40 to 50%, maybe even less, because I work 2 or 3 days a week and I don't work weekends and I don't do call. And so I can just take vacation whenever I want to take vacation.
Wow. So it sounds like you were able to take your professional situation from something that was overwhelming and not suitable to your lifestyle, and you turned it into something that was really suitable to your lifestyle and values, and it became more manageable. Were you able to spend more time with your kids?
Yes. In fact, we just got back from our trip from Maui. My son decided to play hooky from school. I'm glad that they're going to let him make up for his missed homework and missed days, but we wouldn't have been able to do that. Right. I wouldn't have been able to get the vacation time, probably. It just depends on, it would have depended on my group schedule.
Lottery. And there was a pretty profound change that happened roughly 18 months ago, is that her group would allow her to take a 1-month unpaid sabbatical. After 10 years of work, you could take 1 month off unpaid, and then every 5 years after that, you could apply for another sabbatical for 30 days. And about a year and a half ago, she applied. We took one, and we drove most of the West Coast in a Volkswagen van, camper van. We did over 4,000 miles, the whole 4 of us living in the van. It was an adventure.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. He wanted to go for a full year, and I was like, we can't afford that.
We negotiated down.
So and that's kind of a long time in a small van.
Well, my plan was to buy a school bus and convert it. It was quite the would have been quite the thing. That didn't happen, but we did take a month. It was a lot of fun. And so about 18 months ago, a little bit more, she applied for another sabbatical for coming up for this summer. Mm-hmm. And her group said no.
Because it wasn't 5 years yet?
And, it had been 5 years. They just said you can't do it. And I remember
they said you can't because someone else is taking that spot.
Which is the same result. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And I remember she said, well, I can't do it. And I remember looking over at her and I said, we don't have to ask their permission anymore.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I thought about it, and I was like, that's exactly right. And then there were just some other things. They were saying that maybe I wouldn't be able to give up all my call, because some I was allowed to give away my call as a senior partner, and I was able to do that. But they said, things are changing and the scheduling is becoming more demanding. You may have to go back to doing some of the call. And at that point, I realized, with COVID happening, and you just your values shift a little bit. And at that point in time, that changed me. And also I decided, what am I waiting for? Why am I working this hard?
Right.
And I don't have to. And so that's when I just said, okay, well, I'm going to just leave my partnership, and I'm just going to do per diem starting in 2024.
There were a lot of things that led up to this that we hadn't inflated our lifestyle. Remember, I said we were going to move, then we didn't.
Mm.
And so we're in our place. We've got a 22-year-old kitchen here and 22-year-old carpet. And could we update? We could update all kinds of
It
things.
would be like giving a mouse a cookie, though, because it's just like change one thing, and then you have to change another thing, and you change another thing, and we've kind of kept that at bay.
Right. And one of the things that we did to kind of keep that in perspective is that when we looked at doing some upgrades along with the move and all these other things, I said, look, we could do this upgrade, or we could go to Maui every year for 20 years for the same price.
That's a
And
good perspective.
yeah, and so we decided, you know what? We'd rather travel. We'd rather not have we don't have the hippest kitchen. We took the money, and this is a misconception a lot of people have about
Oh, yeah.
buying real estate, is that the real estate buys the real estate. It's not that we're spending because she said her income is less than half of what the average is right now, okay? So really what's buying the properties is the properties themselves. Sometimes we take some of the equity out, sometimes we just refocus the cash flow, but it's the properties buying the properties. And so we haven't gone out, and there's no designer handbags, and the closest I have to designer jeans, my son would say, is my Carhartts. And it's not throwing shade at anybody who likes those things.
Yeah.
Okay. We've just chosen other things. And we decided that in addition to living like The Millionaire Next Door, that book,
Oh, yeah. That's
um,
an excellent book.
is that we decided we have to invest because we can't save our way to financial freedom. We have to have investing as part of that. So we invested along with that, along with living a, fairly simple life. Example, we owned 7 homes before we bought our first new car in our marriage. And we bought a Toyota. That's what we went wild.
And that is value-based spending. That's what we teach here at the Frugal
Yeah.
Physician. You can have anything, but not everything.
That's right. That's right.
And it's a matter of choices. It sounds like you kept your personal life relatively frugal, like Millionaire Next Door, driving reasonable cars, but you live quite an extravagant life. You have so many houses and so many properties, a place in Maui that you can go to for a month. No one would say that you live a deprived life.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yep.
in that part of what we feel is really important is giving back.
Yeah.
Is if we lived everything for ourselves, I don't think we'd be happy people then either.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that.
Well, we have always given at a minimum 10% of our income. We started that decades ago. We've been married over 30 years now, and we've made that a commitment to do. We have been able to grow that percentage significantly till at this point we are able to give about as much as we live on. We want to live not only for ourselves, but to improve the lives of others. And I think it's very important as somebody considers giving that they start the habit now. Because I've heard this from other people say, well, I'll give, but I'll give when I get a lot of money. Well, let me tell you, if you can't give $10 out of 100, giving 10,000 out of 100,000, 10,000 is you're not going to let that leave your hand if you haven't practiced with $10. And so practicing now, with whatever it is. I would encourage people to consider that is to live an extravagant lifestyle in how you give as well, not just how you live for yourself. Because really, I mean, any American, and this is the thing, any American is in the top single digits percentile in the world for wealth.
This show is sponsored by Set for Life Insurance, the ultimate client experience in the insurance industry. Are you looking for the perfect insurance coverage that suits your needs? Founded in 1993 by President Jamie K. Fleischner, Set for Life Insurance specializes in individual life, disability, and long-term care insurance. As brokers, they represent numerous companies in the industry, ensuring that their clients get the best products at the most cost-effective rate. What sets Set for Life Insurance apart? You'll enjoy special discounts, priority underwriting handling, and even exceptions in the underwriting process. So why wait? Contact Set for Life Insurance today and let them be your insurance partner for life. Visit their website at www.setforlifeinsurance.com or call them toll-free at 1-888-553-3559. What are some of your favorite charities?
One of our favorite charities is International Children's Care.
We've been doing that for many years. They run a family kind of base group orphanages, but they put the children into family groups. And so we support some children, a number of them in different places in the world. And I like their family-based approach. That's one of the things.
We also support ADRA.
Yeah.
It's a relief agency.
Relief and development agency. It's kind of the teach a man to fish kind of a thing. Supplying people with ways to keep their health good instead of just rescuing their health once it goes bad. Helping them buy cows and goats and stuff like this so that they can run sustainable farming and so on like that.
Wow,
ADRA.
that is so admirable. You guys are real examples of what real estate investing and mindful spending and frugality can do for you. What would you say to someone that is looking to get started on the same path that you are on now? What advice would you give them, and what challenges might they be facing today that maybe you didn't face when you got started on your journey?
Those are great questions.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll start with one thing that I think is a challenge that is not different, and that is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if you, Henry Ford, it's attributed to him, what he said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're probably right. And that's so true, is that she runs across people in her line of work who say, oh, I couldn't possibly invest. I'm a doctor. And I think, oh my word, if you made it through medical school, you are already way ahead of the curve, both, just with the ability to learn things and income. You can do it. And that is the number one hurdle right there, is mindset. Can you do it? Because the information is out there.
Mm-hmm.
All of it's out there.
I think it also depends. I think sometimes people think you have to have so much money in order to invest, but really you can come in at any level. And so you don't have to buy $1 million property. I mean, we did not start with $1 million property. We started with a $200,000 property. Now, some of those properties are probably not as available now, but wherever you have that investment amount of money, you can invest it somewhere. And so I think that's just to get started, to actually figure out what niche of real estate you want to invest in, and then really dig deep and try to figure out the information that you need about that category of investing, and find people who are experts in that field and learn information from them, right, and go from there.
Right.
I think it's sometimes people will say to us, oh, you must be so lucky, or must be nice. And I just think, well, I don't know if they would think that it was so must be nice when we were tearing down kitchen cabinets and we were cleaning wallpaper, taking wallpaper off the walls, and we were doing a lot of sweat equity in the first rentals that we were working on. And I think it's just easy to see, oh, you're here now, but then they forget where we started. And everybody has to start somewhere.
Right. With a real practical thing, where can you start? There are podcasts, there are books. I would maybe start with some good sampling of books that kind of give you an overview of real estate investing. Bigger Pockets has a lot of them, and Brandon Turner has one in partnership with, I can't remember the other author. And basically, they go over a whole variety of asset classes.
Mhm.
You know, from single family to syndications to multifamily to things like that, and just find out what you like. Right? It's like you go to a restaurant and you just order a little of this, a little of this, a little of this. And there'll be some things you don't like, but there'll be some things you do, and you want to like, next time I come back, I'm gonna get more of that. And so, really, a lot of education is very inexpensive. And if you really want a shortcut, you can buy small courses. You know, just take a little nibble of these things. You don't have to buy a $6,000 course and mentorship thing to get going.
Sometimes people do that and they still don't do it.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's daunting sometimes if you think you have to do, but you can do something one step at a time. I have to say, one of the other books that I thought was really helpful, and if someone wants to learn about short-term rentals, is Avery Carl's
Yes.
book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. She was actually the real estate agent for our very first property that we purchased in
Okay.
in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was our agent. So for less than $20, there's a book you can get, and it's just a high level overview, and it goes pretty fast. You could probably read it in just a couple hours, and it will give you a really, I think, legitimate overview of the asset class that we're investing in.
I will say now, with the way the market is
Mhm.
and with the way the loan rates are, the interest rates are, it is tough.
It is
It is
harder.
going to be tough. There are people who are spouting that they can make 20 to 30%
Cash on cash.
cash on cash. And do not believe that. I'm just saying right now. I mean, if you find something like that, you better grab onto it because that is a unicorn. But basically, it is hard to find something like that, but you can find something that, if you're looking for a vacation rental where you want to spend time with, where it's also partly a lifestyle purchase,
Mhm.
then it will make sense to you to buy something in as a short-term rental, and you will be able to get some money for your mortgage and possibly even break even depending on where you are. And that's also a good play to do also.
Mhm.
It'd be better if you could find something that they made income, but may not be something that's possible at this point in time.
Yeah, I want to speak to something that you talked about, a challenge. I just want to just put this out there, is that if a person is to buy a short-term rental right now with the rates that we have right now and the cycle that we're in, where inventory is very high, supply is very high, so demand is down a little bit, and then you hire a property manager to take care of it for you, there's almost no chance you will make positive cash flow.
Right.
Yeah, because 20%, if they take
Ish.
20% to 30%,
Right off the top.
that just basically takes your profit.
Now, there's another play. There's appreciation to look at.
Tax
There's
benefits.
tax benefits to look at. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but we self-manage. That's a very important thing to point out, is we do spend a fair amount of time doing this. She works a lot with setting prices. I work with guest correspondents and vendors. And so there is some work that we do on these things. It is not entirely passive. And that's one of the reasons that the cash flow we have is as high as it is we're legitimately putting in the work.
But the thing is, if you're a full-time physician and your spouse is a full-time physician, you are not going to have time to do that. And this might be something where you recognize that and you still want to have a vacation rental somewhere. You can still do that. And that's fine. And eventually, as the long-term hold on that will still benefit you in the end, as well as the tax benefits.
Right. So, Eric, we haven't talked about how this strategy has changed your life. Let's talk about that a little bit. What does your life look like? And tell us about what managing the property is like. And I'm curious about whether you're pursuing real estate professional status.
Yes, I am doing reps, the real estate professional status. Listeners can look that up and see what's all involved in that. But I think it's 750 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
I did about 1,300 hours last year, 1,400, and I keep really tight track of that. That's not some kind of wild estimate. That's like a daily tracking thing. But considering that I'm managing, what is it, 7 now, 8, depending on the time, properties, and that just takes time. Plus, we're looking for new places, selling old ones,
Okay.
things of that nature. And that does not include time that I spend as a real estate agent, which really I don't. I'm not listing people's places for sale, and I'm not taking on first-time home buyers, but I am helping people find vacation rentals. So
Right.
what does property management look like? Mostly is it's getting texts saying, oh, there's been a problem. And then I have to solve it. And what that is it's finding the right vendor and working with it. And people will ask, like, well, if you're not doing the work yourself, well, how do you get it done? And it's finding the right vendor. Really, it is not a trick question. People will ask, well, how do you do it? And I say, if you've got a smartphone and thumbs, you can solve almost any problem, right? Because there's somebody out there who will solve that problem for you for money.
Mhm.
And you just
It
have
may
to
cost a lot of money, but it will get solved.
Yeah.
And we've run into a couple things that have been like, okay, that's going to cost us a little bit.
really.
But
So it's not as scary as people think. You know, it's like, yes, have we had issue with a sewer line? Yes, we have. We've had two different issues with that. Well, actually, going back to our long-term properties, we had a house that had, fairly regular issues. But let me put that into perspective, is that is probably five, maybe septic issues that we've had, sewer issues, over close to 100 years worth of leases. Okay, because we own properties, and in parallel, over 15 years, all those that's really not that bad.
Yeah. And you're also doing the tax play with the rep status. Your wife has physician income and you're able to not pay much taxes on that at all. So you can then divert those funds into your real estate investing and into your giving, which basically you're helping the world on your terms.
Absolutely. And this is the thing that folks, if they look just at cash flow, which is what most people do, like they'll just look at cash flow and say, wow, that's not making very much. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, depending on when you bought, what you bought, and how you run it, right? But there's cash flow, there's appreciation, and there's tax benefits. And we work with a CPA firm that specializes in real estate investors. And so we're playing the whole game on the whole field the whole time. And so some deals don't make sense from cash flow, but they do from a tax or appreciation. Sometimes the appreciation, we're like, that's not going to go much, but it has a good cash flow play. And this is important as people are looking at what other people do on social media, is that you have to find out what game they are playing. Because they might have bought a property. I remember we ran into somebody in Maui.
Yeah.
And if you're in real estate, you'd know who they were. I ran into this person in Costco and I said, hey, how's it going? And they said, oh, are you an investor here? And I said, well, at the time, I said, I can't make it make sense for me because I know your buddy so-and-so bought here. And they said it worked out great for them. He said, oh, no, he's losing cash on that. That was a tax play. And I realized, oh, wow, there's different games you can play in this space and score different ways. And you've got to make sure that when you're following your guru or you're listening to somebody or you're just watching them on social media, that you know what's behind the play that they made, right? Because they might have made that play. They might have had to sell a syndication and have $2 million that they will be paying capital gains on. And they would rather get a bad deal and shelter $250,000 of taxes, right, than to wait around and save $100,000 on a deal and then have to pay that tax. And you may look at them not knowing that and think, wow, it looks like they're overpaying for that. Well, yeah, they might be. But as it goes through the whole math system and taxes, they're ahead. It's just very important that we know, and that's actually led me to start a podcast. Because I hear so many of these stories that people do not understand what's happening. They just get the social media highlights. And so a friend and I started a podcast called the Real Estate Pessimist. And it's the good, the bad, and the truth about real estate investing. And we just talk about these things because folks will say, we saw it. We saw this on social media. A fairly well-known person in an asset class was touting how much cash flow they made. And we thought, that just that does not sound like that's feasible. And somebody pushed this individual on it, and they said, well, actually, that's gross, but I call that cash flow. Well, that's not the same thing, right? But if you're not in that space and you don't know what real is from just imaginary social media numbers, you might be thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? Well, you could misunderstand it. They could be totally BSing you. They might not know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's so important to keep in mind, that social media is only part of the picture. I think the most important thing you said there was that you need to know what game they're playing. And then ask that to yourself. And when you're looking at investing, ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to get out of this? What is the end? And what is my goal? And if what you're trying to get out of the property doesn't match what you're going to get out of it, well, then it's not the deal for you, but it may be a good deal for someone else. And that's okay, because we all have different values and different places we're trying to go.
100%.
Well, thank you so much, Gelerie and Erik, for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey to financial freedom through real estate. Your story is a testament to intentional living, disciplined investing, and the power of doing it and then teaching others. To our listeners, if you're intrigued by Gelerie and Erik's approach, check out their STR in an hour course and explore the potential short-term rentals. Don't forget to subscribe to Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician and leave us a review. Until next time, stay focused and take steps towards your financial freedom. But most importantly, stay frugal, y'all.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs.